Okay guys, so this is the tale of two homeowner chainsaws. So I'm going to get into the Husqvarna first because there's a lot more to say about this. So, but I will say this, so I picked this chainsaw up at my local small engine dealer in the parts barn, which is typically always a gamble to begin with. Basically the dealers, you get a discounted chainsaw and you don't know what's wrong with it. Typically if they're in the parts barn, they're unsalvageable. I mean, that's kind of how it works there. If you're lucky enough, like I have been, you'll get it home and work with it a little bit and it runs good. This happens to be one of those. So in total, after getting the saw home, getting it running, going back and buying a used bar and chain, I was in this 65, then bought a new bar and chain cover. So that was another 5, so 70, and then an air filter that was anywhere from 3 to 5. So, just to be very generous, 75. That's probably a little higher than what I spent, but this is originally a $179 saw. This is the same saw as the which is being replaced. This is being replaced by the 120 Mark II. Same exact saw, just a different number. So what's the background of this saw? So this is a pull-in saw. Husqvarna owns pull-in. That's basically their homeowner, cheap, somebody that cuts wood maybe once or twice a year chainsaw. Now, I know I have a neighbor that actually has an older pull-in. That thing just cuts and cuts and cuts and cuts. Those older pull-in saws are just beasts. So by no means am I trashing pull-in. I'm just saying it how I feel. So this is a modern day pull-in saw in Husqvarna plastics. This is a pull-in engine, and I'll get into why this isn't exactly the best design. There's a couple things that turn me off about this saw, and there's a couple things that I kind of like. So the turn off to me, this kind of feels cheap, and I don't want to start the comparison quite yet, but that feels good. This, on the other hand, and when I run it, this thing's flapping around everywhere, and I noticed a lot of these Husqvarnas like this or like that, so not the biggest fan of that. Another thing that I don't really care for is their anti-vibration system. I'll be completely honest, I don't hate it, but I can pick this Stihl up like that and not worry about snapping that case. Look at this. And I get that this is their system here, but I'm scared to death to just pick it up by the handle like that. And so for me, durability, this takes the cake. But so there's some things I don't care for this saw. So originally I was looking at these two saws due to price point and for my needs. I'm just looking to do tree trimming. I had a couple jobs I needed to do around the house that were, maybe 5-6 hours worth of work for each saw's worth. So it's gotten me a good bit of experience on both. But I do have my opinions about both of them. So let's get into the Stihl. This is a 30cc engine, 100% Stihl. Stihl engine, Stihl designed, and it's a good saw. I will say it is, I believe it's 8.3, 8.6 pounds. This is 10.3, I think. So it's roughly 2 pounds lighter and only an 8cc difference. This saw, I mean, I could throw this thing like a football. And this one's got some weight to it. So, that's not necessarily a bad thing either. To the right person, the heavier saw feels maybe more quality, It really comes down to with these two chainsaws preference. Now, I did feel that I needed to do a couple mods on the Husqvarna. I heard way too many horror stories of these things overheating, probably due to them leaning out. Unfortunately, the EPA ruins everything. That's why I own old garden tractors. I don't like the new stuff. It's junk. Between the EPA, between manufacturers, the only reason I own new chainsaws is due to the safety features. As far as a chainsaw being a piece, a piece of equipment with safety features, that's very needed in my opinion. So I like to have the more safer design when it comes to something like these. But so like I said, there's a lot of horror stories about these Husqvarnas overheating. So what I did to counteract that, nothing too crazy. I took the spark arrestor out. I took the muffler tip out. I did not mod the muffler fully, but it is slightly unrestricted. Now, you might ask, did that make a real difference? Yes, actually. Enough of a difference that I'm kind of surprised, actually. So, I put this in some hardwood with a dull chain, and I made sure that the RPMs dropped. And I did this specifically because I wanted to make sure I had my facts straight. Like I said, a whole bunch of people said that these have overheating issues. I was cutting hardwood for a good couple minutes, and this saw got toasty, but it never once overheated. And I 100% believe that was just due to unrestricting it a little bit. By opening this up just that little bit, it actually helps the saw run cooler, and it helps bring up the performance a little bit. When you do any type of muffler modifications, though, you definitely want to make sure that it's retuned. That is very important. So I think if you're mechanically inclined, I don't think the Husqvarna is a bad saw. Now, is there a secret handshake to start the Husqvarna? Absolutely. It doesn't matter what you do. There is a bit of a secret handshake there. So what do I do when I start my 240? 6 primes, choke fully out, pull till it pops, and then I go halfway, pull it, it'll start, run for a couple seconds at the quarter throttle that it starts at. This starts at half throttle, it starts at quarter, and then it'll typically die. So then I just go back to full choke again. It typically pops the first time, put it to half choke, pull it again, and it typically takes off at that point. It's not horrible, it's not enough to get annoying, but it is present. You know it's there. You know that it's not going to take off like the Stihl. Now I will say, in return, the Stihl takes a couple more pulls on the first startup than the Husqvarna does. It might be just a pull or two, but in return, when the Stihl's running, it's running. You don't have to worry about it shutting off on you and then having to choke it one more time to get it going. So on that sense, the Stihl, in my opinion, wins. Chain brake, I think the Husqvarna is a little stiff. This is my second setup, and I'm sorry, but here, I'm going to try to mock it. I mean, I really had to sling that. Where this one is, I could hit this the wrong way. I like that. To me, that's the safer design. So, sitting here, if I were to go shopping for chainsaws again, which chainsaw would I get now that I own both? I'm going to be completely honest with you. And, oh, I forgot to add one point. This is a deciding factor for me. So these chain tensioners, it's going to be hard to see. It's getting dark out. You can see it, though, right there under those bolts. They suck. You have to line them up every time to get your bar on. And for somebody who is particular on maintenance and cleaning their saws, that's a very dirty area of the saw. After every use, you really should take that cover off and blow everything out, clean it up, use Q-tips, wipe it down. So that is a whole fight of its own just to do that. The Stihl is built in. It's on this side of the saw. A lot simpler of a setup. So, I'm gonna have to say, if I'm a homeowner, I want to just cheap, reliable chainsaw I know is gonna work. It's gonna get the job done. Power isn't my biggest concern. I'm going the Stihl all day, every day. Now, the Husqvarna, in my opinion, yeah, it's kind of the better looking saw. I mean, it looks mean, it looks cool. I like the Husqvarna orange better than the Stihl orange. But who cares about looks? It's, when it comes to chainsaws, it comes to reliability, usability, and, part support. These both have great part support. But, unfortunately, this saw was chinsed out. The better comparison, in my opinion, would be a Husqvarna 435. That is a true Husqvarna engine. It's 40 cc's instead of 38. and it's 9.6 pounds, I believe. So that is a true Husqvarna saw. You have the flip-up caps to open up the cover. Completely different story there with that chainsaw. And if I were to do this again, I would have never gotten that one, although I got a discounted price, so I would have gotten that one again. But I'm saying brand new. If I had the choice, I would have gotten a 435, and I probably even maybe would have got a 435 over the Stihl. But I don't need that. I have no use for a chainsaw that expensive and that big. But you know, each saw has their purpose, and you know, it's really your personal preference. But I think if you're just a homeowner and you want simplicity, easy to work on, you would be pretty dumb not to go with the Stihl. I love Husqvarna, so try to understand I'm not being biased here. I just feel for what both of these saws are marketed for, the Stihl is what you want. It's easy to work on, easy to tighten the chain, part support's out there. You can't get screwed over at a big box store on these. You have to go to a dealer that's authorized by Stihl to get one of these brand new. Where Husqvarna, you can go to Lowe's or whatever and pick it up, and for some people that might be great. To me, that's partially a downside, just due to the fact that, you know, big box stores can screw you over with the price, or they can raise it, or they can lower it, or do, you know. So I kind of like that the dealers have their set prices, and you go in there, you know what you're getting. They'll explain to you the saw, they'll break in the engines. So yeah, that's the two chainsaws. Sorry if this video kind of sucks. I'm new to chainsaws, but I'm just trying to throw out my opinion for the first time buyer, looking at a good homeowner saw. Like I said, I picked the Stihl, but either choice, especially if you can get one of these 240s used, don't be afraid to get it. But if you do, make sure you're definitely, you know, mechanically inclined in some areas. But yeah, talk to you guys later. Please like, subscribe, and if you want to see more videos on either of these saws, let me know and I'll see what I can do.